How does a man rise from the golden towers of Manhattan to the Oval Office, shaking the foundations of American politics along the way? Donald Trump's journey is anything but ordinary. Born into privilege, he transformed himself into a brand, a celebrity, and eventually one of the most polarizing figures in history. This is not a simple story of success. It's a saga of ambition, resilience, and controversy. From being mentored by a ruthless father to redefining American politics, Trump's life mirrors the complex and divided nation he came to lead. This is the story of how Donald became Trump and how Trump reshaped the United States. Transition. But to understand Donald Trump, we must first step into his childhood, where the seeds of his ambition were sown. 2. Childhood and early lessons. Donald John Trump was born on June 14, 1946, in Queens, New York, into a life of privilege, but also under immense expectations. His father, Fred Trump, was a successful real estate developer with a no-nonsense approach to business. Fred believed in toughness and instilled in Donald a cutthroat mentality with a mantra: don't be weak, be a killer. From a young age, Donald exhibited a competitive streak. He was known to bully classmates and even his siblings. One infamous incident involved him throwing an eraser at his teacher, leading Fred to send him to the New York Military Academy. Here, Donald learned discipline and leadership, thriving in the structured, competitive environment. He excelled in sports and earned the nickname Ladies' Man in his yearbook, reflecting his charisma even in his teenage years. But these formative years weren't just about discipline. Fred Trump's relentless drive taught Donald the value of hard work and perseverance. The lessons he absorbed during this time would lay the foundation for his later successes and the controversies that would follow. Transition. Armed with discipline and ambition, Donald was ready to step out of his father's shadow. But first, he had to prove himself. 3. Rise in real estate, from son to showman. Donald Trump's real estate journey began under the mentorship of his father. In 1968, fresh out of the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, he joined the family business, E. Trump and Son. The initial years were a grind, with Donald and Fred working to turn around struggling housing projects. But Donald wasn't content with the small-scale operations that defined his father's career. He envisioned something grander. One of his first bold moves was rebranding the company to the Trump Organization, signaling his ambitions to dominate the Manhattan real estate scene. Donald's first major project was the Commodore Hotel, which he transformed into the Grand Hyatt. This was followed by his crowning achievement, Trump Tower, a 58-story skyscraper that became a symbol of luxury and power. The Trump Tower wasn't just a building, it was a statement. It announced Donald Trump as a force to be reckoned with in Manhattan's elite circles. However, Trump's rise wasn't without controversy. In the early 1970s, the Trump Organization faced a lawsuit from the Department of Justice for alleged racial discrimination in housing. Instead of settling quietly, Donald countersued for $100 million. This aggressive strategy, although unsuccessful, showcased a pattern that would define his life. Never admit defeat, never back down. Transition. As Donald Trump's name began to shine in Manhattan, he realized that real estate was just the beginning. 4. Fame, fortune, and scandals. The 1980s were a defining decade for Donald Trump. It was a time when greed was good, and Trump epitomized the era's hyper-capitalist ethos. He became a media darling, frequently appearing on talk shows and in tabloid headlines. Trump wasn't just a businessman, he was a showman who understood the power of the spotlight. He expanded his empire with ventures like casinos in Atlantic City, the Trump Shuttle airline, and even a football team. Each move was grander and more ambitious than the last. His marriage to Ivana Trump, a glamorous Czech model, added to his allure as the epitome of 1980s wealth and success. Together, they became one of America's most talked about power couples. But fame brought scrutiny. Trump faced accusations of unethical business practices, from underpaying contractors to exploiting tax loopholes. The media loved to hate him, but Trump thrived on the attention. "All publicity is good publicity," he often said. Transition. But every rise has its fall, and for Donald Trump, the 1990s would bring his toughest challenges yet. Fifth fall from grace. Bankruptcy and crisis. As the 1990s began, the cracks in Trump's empire started to show. His lavish lifestyle and aggressive expansion had been funded largely by debt. When the US economy slipped into a recession, Trump's businesses, dependent on consumer spending, began hemorrhaging money. At one point, Trump was over $3 billion in debt. He was forced to sell prized assets, including his yacht and airline, and even declared bankruptcy for several of his casinos. The tabloids turned on him, painting a picture of a man who had overreached and fallen spectacularly. Adding to his woes was his highly publicized divorce from Ivana, which played out in the media like a soap opera. Yet, even in the face of humiliation, Trump refused to admit defeat. He wrote a book, The Art of the Comeback, and slowly rebuilt his image and finances. Transition. From the ashes of bankruptcy, Trump found a new path to success, not in real estate, but in the power of his brand. 6. The Apprentice Era. Building the Trump brand. By the late 1990s, Donald Trump's financial empire was no longer the powerhouse it once was. However, the next phase of his career wouldn't be about building skyscrapers or casinos. It would be about building his personal brand. This reinvention came with the launch of the reality TV show The Apprentice in 2004, an opportunity that would redefine his public image and catapult him back into the national spotlight. The concept of The Apprentice was simple. A group of contestants competed in business-related tasks for a chance to work for Donald Trump. But the real draw of the show wasn't the competition, it was Trump himself. With his catchphrase, "You're fired," and larger-than-life persona, Trump became the centerpiece of the show. Over 20 million people tuned in weekly, making The Apprentice a cultural phenomenon. Trump used the platform not just to entertain, but to market himself. From fragrance lines to board games, his name became synonymous with success. While many of these products failed, the show solidified Trump as a symbol of ambition and the American dream. Transition. With his brand now stronger than ever, Trump began to look beyond business and television to a new realm of influence: politics. 7. The political pivot. Donald Trump had flirted with politics long before his official entry. In the late 1990s, he joined the Reform Party and briefly considered running for president. Though he ultimately withdrew, the seeds of his political ambitions were sown. Throughout the 2000s, Trump increasingly voiced his opinions on national issues. He criticized trade deals, foreign policy, and what he saw as America's declining global status. In 2011, he made headlines by questioning President Barack Obama's birthplace, a move that polarized the public but resonated with certain segments of voters. Trump's transition from businessman to political figure was strategic. He understood the power of media and crafted a persona that appealed to those who felt left behind by the political establishment. His speeches, often unscripted and provocative, tapped into the frustrations of millions of Americans. Transition. But Trump's political aspirations would truly take shape in 2015, when he made an announcement that would change the course of American history. 8. 2016. Election. The outsider rises. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump descended the golden escalator of Trump Tower and announced his candidacy for president. His speech was unconventional, filled with blunt criticisms of immigration, trade, and America's political elite. While many dismissed his campaign as a publicity stunt, Trump's message struck a chord with a significant portion of the electorate. Trump positioned himself as an outsider who would drain the swamp in Washington. His promise to build a wall along the US-Mexico border became a rallying cry. The media initially treated his campaign as a joke, but Trump used this to his advantage, dominating headlines and outshining his Republican rivals. Despite his controversial rhetoric, Trump secured the Republican nomination and faced Hillary Clinton in the general election. The campaign was one of the most divisive in US history, marked by scandals, debates, and social media wars. Against all odds, Trump won the presidency, securing key swing states and shocking the political establishment. Transition. Trump's victory wasn't just an election win, it was a cultural earthquake that reshaped the American political landscape. Ninth, legacy and impact. Donald Trump's presidency was as polarizing as his campaign. His policies, such as tax reforms and immigration restrictions, were hailed by supporters but criticized by opponents. Trump's use of social media, particularly Twitter, bypassed traditional channels of communication and directly engaged with his base. Culturally, Trump became a lightning rod for debates about race, class, and power. His presidency highlighted deep divisions in American society, from the rise of populism to debates over globalism versus nationalism. For better or worse, Trump's influence extended far beyond his 4 years in office, leaving an indelible mark on US politics.
The man behind the curtain. Donald Trump is more than a businessman, celebrity, or politician. He is a phenomenon. His life story reflects a relentless pursuit of success, fueled by a desire to prove his critics wrong. Whether it was his father's high expectations, media ridicule, or political opposition, Trump has always thrived on challenges. His journey from Queens to the White House is a testament to his ability to adapt, reinvent, and capitalize on opportunities. But it's also a cautionary tale about ambition, controversy, and the cost of success. As Trump himself once said, "I don't like to analyze myself because I might not like what I see." This is the story of Donald Trump, a man who changed America and left a legacy that will be debated for generations.